There comes a moment when you realize the truth. It never worked because you tried to make it work. You prayed harder, you begged louder, you visualized more vividly. You forced yourself to do, but you forgot to be. Creation does not respond to strain. It responds to assumption. It doesn't bend to your effort. It unfolds through your inner knowing. You see, your desire was never outside of you. The moment you imagined it, truly imagined it with feeling, it was done, finished, complete. But you didn't rest in that knowing. You kept digging up the seed to check if it was growing. You chased the outcome like it was running from you. And in that chase, you confessed a secret. You didn't realize you were telling, dear, I don't believe it's mine yet. And the world responded in kind. Because reality, dear friend, is only a mirror. It reflects not what you say, but what you are. And when you stop forcing, when you stop pushing, something miraculous happens. You become still, you begin to feel, you begin to know. You live in the end, not running toward it, but dwelling in it. And in that state, you find peace, you find joy, and suddenly you stop wanting because you become the one who already has. This is when it moves. This is when it shifts. Not because you pushed, but because you surrendered. You see, the moment you feel it real, it is real. There is nothing more to do. There is only the rest, the trust, the quiet confidence that what is felt in the unseen will soon be seen. So stop trying, start knowing. It works when you stop forcing it, because forcing is the language of lack. But stillness is the voice of faith. And faith is the bridge between your inner world and the one you walk in. Rest in your desire, feel it as done, and watch the world rearrange itself to reflect your silent, sovereign knowing. When you first come to the realization that your inner world creates your outer world, there's a natural tendency to try and do more. You try to think more positively, visualize harder, repeat affirmations endlessly, and force yourself into a better state. But none of that truly works until you understand the deeper truth. Creation is born out of stillness, not struggle. Stillness is not inactivity. It is not laziness or complacency. Stillness is a deep inner knowing, a calm, confident acceptance that what you have imagined is already yours. It is the absence of resistance, the silence of the mind that no longer wrestles with how or when. In stillness, you stop trying to make things happen, and you begin to realize they already have. Struggle, on the other hand, is rooted in fear. It's the belief that if you don't fight, if you don't constantly work or worry or push, then nothing will come to pass. But that very belief is what keeps the thing you desire just out of reach. Because struggle sends a message to the subconscious mind that says, I don't have it yet. I must get it. And so it keeps you in a perpetual state of needing, wanting, and not having. The truth is, everything begins and ends in consciousness. What you claim quietly in the inner world echoes into the outer world. But when you are constantly chasing results, your focus is on the absence, not the presence. Stillness, however, is the space where imagination lives without interruption. It's where you see clearly what you want, and more importantly, where you feel it so completely that there's nothing left to do. Stillness allows the seed to grow. The moment you imagine a desire and feel it as real, you've planted it in the fertile soil of your mind. But the struggle digs it up. The mental noise, the emotional restlessness, the desperation to see results immediately, these things disturb the process. You are not here to force your reality into shape. You are here to assume the form of what you desire within and let reality conform to it. Just as the sea does not struggle to reflect the moon, your world does not struggle to reflect your inner state. It happens naturally, effortlessly, in divine order, but only when you stop trying to control every detail and start allowing the truth of your desire to unfold through you. Stillness is where the power lives, not in the frantic effort, not in the stress, not in the endless to-do lists or the relentless search for answers. True power whispers. It doesn't shout. It moves without noise, and it only rises when you become still enough to hear it. Imagination is the beginning and end of all creation. Everything you see, everything you touch, everything you call real was once a thought, a vision, a moment in someone's inner world. Long before it became solid and visible, it was imagined. That simple truth, once understood deeply, dissolves the need for force. Because it's not through pushing or struggling that reality bends. It is through the silent, effortless power of imagination. Force belongs to the realm of the outer. It's the action of the person who doesn't yet know their true source of power. It's the reaction of someone who believes the world is fixed and must be fought to be changed. But imagination exists before the world. It is the mold from which the outer takes shape. To imagine is to command. It is to impress the unseen with the image of what you desire, and to know that this impression must express itself in form. When you try to change your life by manipulating the external alone, you find resistance, you encounter delays, you feel frustration, because the external is only the effect, never the cause. The cause is within, always within. It is what you dwell on in the quiet hours. It is what you accept as true when no one is watching. It is the feeling you carry in the silence of your own heart. Imagination is not idle fantasy. It is a creative act, a spiritual law, a force more powerful than any physical effort. What you imagine with feeling, with faith, begins to harden into fact. It may not happen in the moment, and it may not unfold as you expect, but it must move, because all things follow the pattern impressed upon the mind. You don't need to beg for what you want. You don't need to chase it down. You need only to see it clearly, to feel it fully, and to walk through life as though it is already so. That is the secret power of imagination. It bypasses the noise. It ignores appearances. It creates quietly in the depths of consciousness and lets the world catch up in its own time. Every great change, every transformation begins not with effort, but with a vision. It begins when you close your eyes and dare to believe that what you see in your mind is more real than what you see with your eyes. And when that belief is steady and full of life, no force is needed. Reality reshapes itself to match the image held within. Desperation is the language of lack. It is the silent cry that says, I do not have and I fear I never will. It may not be spoken aloud, but it is felt deeply and energetically, and that feeling speaks louder than words. When you desire something with desperation, you push it away, not because the thing itself resists you, but because you are rooted in a state of not having it. You are vibrating with the belief that it is far from you, and so it remains far. Desperation clouds the mind. It makes you grasp, cling, and act from panic. It moves you into trying, begging, hoping, never knowing. And the more you try to force it, the more life reflects the very absence you are consumed by. The outer world can only echo what you assume to be true within. And when your inner state is built upon lack, your world will continue to mirror that emptiness. Assumption, however, is entirely different. Assumption is calm. Assumption is quiet confidence. It is the still inner claim that says, this is mine, it has already been given. When you assume something is already done, you do not need to ask for it again. You do not search or strive. You rest in the feeling of having it. And that rest, that inner knowing, draws it to you without effort. Assumption does not wait for proof. It does not need to see results before it believes. It believes first, and then the results follow. It creates a new identity, one where you no longer want the thing, but are the person who already possesses it. From this state, everything begins to change. Your energy changes, your choices change, your actions become effortless, aligned, and guided. There is no pulling in assumption, no reaching, no convincing, just being. And from being, all things are drawn, because what you assume to be true in consciousness must find its way into form, not through force, but through the natural unfolding of what already exists within. Desperation is a prayer of doubt. Assumption is a declaration of faith. One says, I hope. The other says, I know. And reality always responds to the one who knows. To live from the end is to enter the state of fulfillment before the outer world has caught up. It is to assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled, to dwell in the consciousness of already having what you desire. When you live from the end, you no longer chase or hope, you become. And in that becoming, the world begins to shape itself around your new identity. Most people live toward the end. They wait for evidence. They wait for change in the outer world before they allow themselves to feel different. They believe they must earn the outcome through effort or time, and in doing so, they remain stuck in a cycle of waiting, always preparing, always striving, but never arriving. Living toward the end is a state of separation. It says it is not here yet, and that belief becomes the reality. But when you live from the end, something powerful happens. You skip the waiting, you bypass the delay, you step into the version of yourself who already has, already is, already knows. You let go of the question, how will it happen, because it no longer matters. In your imagination, it has already happened. You feel the joy, the gratitude, the confidence of one who has received, and that inner state becomes your new dwelling place. This way of being is not pretending, it is creation. It is the act of assuming a new reality and allowing everything else to reorganize around it. When you live from the end, you no longer need to check for signs or search for confirmation. You no longer ask when or if. You've accepted the unseen as more real than the seen, and in that acceptance, you've moved the foundation of your life. Living from the end changes your choices. It changes how you speak, how you walk, how you respond to the world. You don't act out of fear or need. You act from fulfillment, and fulfillment carries its own kind of momentum. You begin to move in harmony with your desire, not because you are pursuing it, but because it is already part of you. The world is simply a mirror. It reflects not your words, but your state. When you live from the end, your state becomes one of completion, of success, of love, of abundance, whatever it is you desire. And in time, the world must catch up, because it cannot help but reflect what you have dared to become within. Your desire is not a distant event waiting to happen. It is a completed act the moment you claim it within. The idea that you must earn it, wait for it, or struggle toward it is an illusion born from the senses. In truth, everything you could ever want already exists in potential, and your imagination is the channel through which it takes form. The very moment you imagine it vividly and feel it real, you bring it into being, not in the world of appearances, but in the only true creative space, your consciousness. Desire at its root is not a sign of something lacking. It is life pulling you toward what is already yours. The longing you feel is not a reminder that you're missing something. It is the echo of something already complete, calling you to remember who you are. When you understand this, you stop chasing and start claiming. You start begging and start assuming. The world outside may still look unchanged, but that is only because it has not yet caught up with the shift that happened within. You don't need to see physical evidence immediately to know the desire is fulfilled. The moment you accept it inwardly, with feeling and faith, it is done. The outer world is simply delayed reflection, slow to move, but certain to follow. Creation does not happen in stages. It is immediate. What takes time is your acceptance of it. The only delay is in your own willingness to believe that what you imagine is already real. When you dwell in the feeling of your desire being fulfilled, you align with its frequency. You no longer speak as someone who wants. You speak as one who has. You walk, breathe, and exist in the state of completion. And everything around you begins to respond to that truth. There is no need to question, to worry, or to wonder how it will come to pass. That is not your role. Your only responsibility is to persist in a feeling that it is already so. To walk through each day not looking for proof, but knowing it is done. And when you know this, truly know it, you live in peace. Even before the evidence appears, because your inner world has already claimed it, and what is claimed within must appear without. Letting go is not giving up. It is not surrendering your desire or abandoning what you want. Letting go means releasing the tension, the urgency, the clinging energy that says, I need this to happen or I can't be whole. It is the quiet release of control, not of the desire itself, but of the need to force its arrival. You let go, not because you start caring, but because you start trusting. When you hold on too tightly, you choke the flow. You are constantly checking, doubting, questioning. You ask, why hasn't it shown up yet? And in that question is the admission that you don't believe it's truly yours. The energy of trying to control, to manipulate, or to make things happen is rooted in fear. And fear builds walls where there should be openings. For the moment you let go, you invite the unseen forces of creation to do what they were always meant to do. You allow space. You give permission for the outcome to arrive in ways greater than your limited plans. Letting go is the act of removing yourself from the mechanics and trusting the process you set in motion the moment you imagined your desire and felt it as true. You don't need to monitor the progress. You don't need to know who, how, or when. That part is not yours. Your job is to dwell in the end, to live in the feeling that it's already done, and to release everything else. Because when you let go of needing, you step into having. When you let go of watching the clock, you move into timeless trust. You make room for the fulfillment to come through the path of least resistance. Something that can only happen when you are no longer trying to control every step. Letting go is a sign of power, not weakness. It is the highest form of belief. It is saying, I have imagined it. I have felt it. It is done. And with that, you loosen your grip and open your hands, no longer holding on in fear, but receiving in faith. What you desire can't enter a mind full of doubt or a heart clenched with urgency. It flows in naturally, effortlessly, when you let go and let it in. Feeling is the doorway between the invisible and the visible, the bridge that connects your inner world to the outer one. It is not enough to merely think of what you want. Thought alone is hollow unless it is infused with the emotion that brings it to life. You may repeat words, affirm ideas, visualize pictures, but without feeling, they remain lifeless. Feeling is the animating force. It gives your assumptions weight, reality, and momentum. The world responds not to what you say, but to what you feel to be true. Your feelings are the substance of your belief. You can say, I am wealthy 1,000 times, but if you feel lack within, it is lack that will manifest. You can imagine love, success, or healing, but if fear or doubt dominates your emotional state, those images remain unrealized. What you truly feel becomes your experience, not someday, but now. Feeling is not to be forced. It is to be accepted. It arises naturally when you sink into the reality of your desire already fulfilled. When you close your eyes and allow yourself to fully enter the scene of your wish as if it were happening now, your emotions begin to shift. You feel the joy, the peace, the relief. That shift is not pretentious. It is creation. You are impressing your subconscious with a new truth, and your world will soon reflect it. The power of feeling is that it bypasses logic. It doesn't ask for evidence. It doesn't wait for proof. It accepts what the mind may not yet understand. And because the subconscious mind responds only to what is impressed upon it with feeling, your emotions become the creative tool that shapes your reality. The deeper and more consistent the feeling, the faster the outer world must conform. Feeling is not passive. It is an act of surrender to a new state of being. It is choosing, moment by moment, to dwell in the emotional atmosphere of the life you desire, even if nothing around you suggests it yet. It is staying loyal to that inner world until it becomes your outer one. You are always feeling something, and what you consistently feel is what you consistently live. Faith is not a wish or a hope. It is a deep, unshakable knowing. Hoping is born from uncertainty. It is the tentative desire for something to happen, accompanied by doubt and hesitation. Faith, on the other hand, is the quiet certainty that what you desire is already yours, regardless of what your senses tell you. It is the state of consciousness where there is no question, no struggle, no waiting, only absolute confidence. When you hope, you are divided. Part of you wants the outcome, while another part doubts its arrival. This inner conflict creates resistance. It sends mixed signals to the subconscious mind, which responds only to clarity and conviction. Hoping is a fragile, fleeting energy that cannot sustain creation because it is rooted in lack. It holds a foot in the future and a foot in the present, never fully committed to the reality of the wish fulfilled. Faith, in contrast, transcends time and circumstance. It is not dependent on what is seen or heard. It does not need validation. It rests in the invisible realm with a calm assurance that everything is already complete. To have faith is to walk through life as if your desire has already manifested, to live from that state of fulfillment without hesitation or second guessing. Faith transforms your entire being. It aligns your thoughts, emotions, and actions with the reality you wish to experience. When you know beyond doubt that something is yours, your energy shifts. You no longer act from fear or lack, but from abundance and certainty. This alignment creates a powerful magnetic force that draws the outer conditions to match your inner conviction. True faith is a quiet power. It doesn't boast or demand. It simply is. It is the foundation of creation, the invisible root that causes the visible world to grow and bloom. Without faith, the seed cannot take hold. But with faith, the impossible becomes inevitable. It is the knowing that bridges the gap between desire and fulfillment, turning dreams into reality. In every moment, remember this simple truth. The power to create lies not in pushing harder or forcing what you want to happen, but in the quiet assurance that it already is. When you stop struggling and start trusting, when you live from the end and feel your desire fulfilled within, the world will respond in kind. Release the need to control, embrace the feeling of having, and watch how effortlessly your reality shifts to match your inner knowing. Thank you for allowing these words to remind you of the true secret, that it works when you stop forcing it. Keep faith, keep feeling, and rest in the stillness where all creation begins. Thank you.